Okay, we'll get started at 7:06 p.m. We do have quorum. So of course we had the January 22nd state committee meeting where most of our proposals from the rules committee were passed. The only ones that weren't passed were the refund policy was deferred to a future policy committee, which I forgot to create, although it'd probably be better calling this committee the Rules and Policy Committee, just to combine them together. But we won't worry about that yet. The other one was the financial obligation of state committee members. So I am going to go back to that and I'll share my screen. And actually, before I do that, did anyone else want to bring anything else up before we get started? Okay. Okay, we'll jump right in onto the financial obligation rules proposal. So we have what was Mark Brayman's version, which was brought forth to the committee. And then it was substituted with the Redmond version, but it was still deferred back to committee. There was talk about striking a lot of text in the middle. And so I created a modified proposal B to start us out on, unless we want to go back to it, but that seems to be where the conversation was going. So I'll turn it over to the floor if anybody wants to get started with proposal B here.
So are we just discussing it at this point, or?
We can discuss it, or anyone
Okay.
can make a motion to make a recommendation of this modification, or
Well,
we can leave it to the committee.
one bit of wording, and some both Mark's and mine, is the following fixed cost. That kind of, it almost makes it sound like we need to sit down with every single convention and nitpick the exact cost of everything. When I think we should just, like I have towards the end of mine, just come up with a set fee, whether it's $20 or whatever, and get rid of the fixed cost clause in there.
I think Andrews has, right? Andrew
Yeah.
has gotten rid.
This proposal B, yeah, I basically got
Oh,
rid of,
okay, I'm looking at the wrong one.
yeah,
Sorry.
what we had discussed there.
Okay, I got it now.
Has anyone done the math on whether $20 would, like, what would that look like compared to our average attendance? Like, how much money?
How many
Well,
people really stream or participate that way?
We
Well,
haven't
yeah,
really.
like, how many people voted at the last convention? I've asked this like 10 times. I should just write stuff down, but estimate. Like, I know not exactly, but like
I
50,
think there were
40.
50, probably, weren't there, Andrew?
I think 40, 45.
That was 2 years ago in Albany, right?
So
No,
you're looking at
you're
Niagara
talking
Falls.
about, so we had one in Niagara Falls.
So you're
We have
looking at roughly
Syracuse too, right?
$900 to $1,000, right? Is your rough estimate with 45 people to plus?
What?
What?
$20 a head per 45 people? What's that come to?
50 is $1,000.
900.
$900.
That's what I said. So 45 people, give or take, plus you're looking at roughly $900 to $1,000.
Oh, I thought
Oh,
you said
I didn't hear the-
$900,000.
Yeah, I didn't hear the two.
Plus, anyone who
What?
buys a convention package would be more, obviously. So,
Right, that would be
what
a
does that
bare-
get us? Like,
Yeah.
is this worth it? I guess.
So
Or should we talk about
right,
maybe we make it $25?
Well, how many people were actually participating remotely?
Right, I guess.
about 20 maybe.
Okay, so now we're talking $400.
So would
So right now it's
$450 have
$0.
helped?
There was
Right.
resistance. We can always start it at something, and it can always
Yeah.
be increased in the future.
Of course. Like, I guess my point at Niagara Falls, would 400 obviously $400 extra helps, but would that have pushed it to be profitable or were we still
We
losing
had
money?
about $2,000 profit in Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Cool.
But I mean, if the concern has been this going back to the 2020 convention when it was going to be completely remote, or before it was completely remote, there was talk of charging people to pay who are attending remotely. And I think it was like we did like $100. Um I forget
That was my
exactly what we did.
that was
What's
my
been,
recollection. It's going to be somewhere around 100.
Yeah,
what's
I
been,
don't think we should charge anywhere near that amount. I mean, my thoughts are, it's more or less a symbolic fee to hopefully get more people to attend in person. And, we're not trying to make it a punitive fee, which I think 100 would be, when some people have legitimate reasons why they cannot go in person.
Andrew, is it fair to say since LPNY became a thing after FLP, right, going back to 2019, that the average cost of events are, I'm going to say $3,500 on average?
What?
No, no, they're more.
They've increased, and it depends on the location, depends on the hotel. I mean,
Right.
we've done it
Okay.
in like major cities before, and that gets more costly. Of course, if we go to a cheaper venue outside of a major city, like going to Watkins Glen as opposed to like Albany or Utica or Syracuse, it gets cheaper.
Yeah.
But overall, it's not going to get any cheaper moving forward.
So that being said, at $20, it's not going to cover the spread whatsoever at a bare minimum.
But it right now it's $0. I
Yeah.
will say that right now it's $0. If
Yeah.
20 people attend online and pay $0, that's $400 that we're not getting to offset any costs that we may be unexpected. Plus, the money can be used to upgrade audio sound equipment, so that we can be better prepared to give the online attendees a better experience, because before we've had technical issues before, and we've had some bad ones before where people would hear echoes. And Chris, how was the audio experience in February 2022,
Which one was that? Where was
where
that
we
at?
nominated Larry the second time?
That was Albany, wasn't it?
Albany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had so many echo problems. We had to use different microphones, I think. Didn't I bring my own personal speaker for
You
everybody to
weren't
use?
there, you were online.
Oh, I'm thinking of a I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the one that Deborah and I went to. Um yeah, no, I was trying to make a motion on that and I wasn't able to. My audio was so terrible.
Yeah.
It was very
So
choppy and out and it was echoey. Yeah.
yeah, we've had some bad ones, sometimes where we've had to delay an hour just to figure out the audio. Sometimes it would change. It'd be
I
all
think
set up, but then
at one point there was like up to like a 30-second delay between real time and like voting and like people trying to raise points of order and stuff. It was so bad.
yeah.
Was it streamed by a YouTube? Is that how we normally do it, or?
It was streamed on YouTube, but we were all in Zoom. We had Zoom up on the screen.
Okay.
The problem was I had tested it beforehand, but then people couldn't hear Cody. And so Cody had to turn on his computer. So I had to keep muting my computer or turning the volume. Every time someone online had to speak, I had to turn the volume on my computer up
Oh,
because
yeah, I
no one could
remember
hear it
that.
on
Yeah.
Cody's computer.
Yeah.
So if somebody started talking online and I wasn't ready yet, I had to turn my volume on and then somebody would have to say something. So it's made it very difficult.
No, is that something that's written into the contract that like you get a refund on if their AV is just crap?
No, it was purely us.
All right.
Yeah, if they're not really responsible for the usage of it. even though
They're
we've had
responsible
some
for,
terrible AV equipment, the only
Yeah,
thing would
somehow-
be if it wasn't functional.
A lot of hotels even contract out the AV portion to a private company to handle.
So getting back to the rules, did anyone want to move this new proposal B, or did we want to adjust it or amend it?
Well, I
I
guess
propose that we accept proposal B as written. I move that.
Okay, a motion by Michael Redmond. Is there a second?
I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Okay, any further discussion on proposal B?
My question is, I hate to say this, but I'm, playing devil's advocate on this proposal. Is $20 enough? Is 25 unreasonable?
It's a starting point, I think. It's a learning thing. It's the first time we've done it, and I would say, start with that and reevaluate afterwards.
Yeah,
I have, do I need to raise my hand?
Go ahead.
just say what you want to say.
So, yeah, I think it's important that we maybe do this now because I think we can anticipate that the plan for a downstate convention may be more demanding of resources, and that we will have higher in-person fees. So we should have at least some precedent for considering um, higher remote fees. This will give us a chance to see how people respond to it. I do have to say, you know, I accepted with a little bit of irony people's argument at the last state committee meeting that we need to offer more incentives for people to participate in person. For anyone who has lived long enough, the idea that before 2019, uh, it's pretty obvious that before 2019, uh, you could have argued that the opportunity to vote for a nominee was the incentive to show up in person, because if you didn't show up in person and pay the registration fee, basically you couldn't vote for the nominee. There was no history in the Libertarian Party of remote people getting a chance to vote for a nominee. So that was the incentive. And the idea that anyone before 2019 would have considered it a pay to play is just absurd. So I think it's rather humorous that it's being brought up now as a problem. At the same time, I absolutely do understand rhetorically that it's the argument that people are making. We have changed our mindset since the pandemic. People everywhere think they're entitled to participate remotely, from workplaces to schools to political parties. That is the way of the world.
Well, I think another thing people might not realize is I can only speak for sure for the cost for Watkins Glen, but it probably applies across the board. And what we're charging for people to come in person, the registration fees and stuff, we're not making much money off of that. In fact, we're charging a full registration $229. Our actual cost is $193. But if you push the ancillary income streams, that's where you can make the money and keep the package reasonable.
Yeah,
So I just want to throw it out, just to kind of give a little bit of an overview of what we're dealing with cost wise and stuff too.
Chris Ferlinski.
Yeah. I want you guys to consider something that we really only need to do this for 2 meetings this year. In the unlikely event, but possible situation that ballot access is attained with the right candidate this year, this entire rule that we're looking to move, which will only go into effect for one in-person meeting for the remainder of this year, will now become null and void per election law. Is it
Yeah.
worth doing right now? And maybe just holding off, putting this on the burner and seeing how the general election turns out. and then go forward with it in the next year, because we're really only doing this for one meeting.
No, it would have, if this passed, it could apply to Watkins Glen, both Watkins Glen and the meeting in September.
All right, I thought Michael made a point. Meeting his intention wasn't to apply that. I'm hoping that it would, but didn't necessarily want to do that. Whether that was
that's my intention. I mean, it's my
I
own
thought
personal thing, but
I thought you were just pampering people's emotions by saying that to try to butter them up to approve it. But
well,
you
I
know,
just don't want it to look like we're trying to rush this through just to bring more money in. I would
yeah.
prefer not dealing with that, actually.
All right. So
That's why I would put it up.
it could go into effect for 2 meetings. If we don't push the issue, it's really only for one. Like I said, in the unlikely event that we get ballot access, this rule has to completely go away.
I don't, I don't think you're an attorney, Chris, so I don't know that that is absolutely reliable.
Well, if
I
we're
would,
a party, we
I would
can't
like to,
charge membership. We already went through this the last couple of years until we lost ballot access. You can't charge a fee to be a member.
yeah, but that's different from saying you can't charge a fee to participate in a meeting that costs something.
If
You
there's
can't
vote
charge
right
a
in business
member.
that has to be done, I believe so. But you're right. I'm not an attorney on it, and I understand what you're saying, that there's cost for an actual event. But I think anything that pertains to party business, we can't charge a fee for.
I don't,
I
I'd like
well,
to know if there's precedent for that. I would love to
yeah,
know if
I agree.
if the Republican Party never charges its state committee members a dime to participate. I would love to know the precedent.
Yeah.
I don't think we can assume that that is true, that there's anybody in the state that would enforce it.
Well, let me
If a
backtrack.
party decided
Why
to charge.
why didn't we charge a fee before, when we were an officially recognized party for any of our stuff like that?
Well, we intended to.
We were going to, but then the pandemic hit and it was completely online, so there was no need to offset costs for an in-person meeting because it was all online. But that was the intention. But we weren't under ballot access, we weren't going to enforce it. Because someone could technically walk in the room and demand to be seated for business without paying,
Well,
and we
that's the
couldn't
point
stop
I'm
them
making.
from doing that.
That's the exact point that I'm making here. I feel like I
But
was going through
right now,
effect.
under no ballot access, this would be valid because we can do what we want.
No, I understand that. I'm not missing that point. I'm just saying, should we gain ballot access again? I think that you just made the exact argument or question that Mark and I were asking, that we can't do that.
Well, not quite, because we never offered remote participation for free. Okay, there was never any question that we would offer people to be able to participate remotely at no cost. And there are costs associated with participating remotely. So it's not, I don't think it would be at all unreasonable for a party to say, if you're going to participate remotely, you have to help defray the costs of creating the possibility.
No, I don't disagree with trying to recuperate some of our expenses. I'm just saying, if we get ballot access again, I don't know, but we should definitely look into it. It might only be valid for this year. I don't know.
I doubt that, because there isn't precedent. I doubt there's precedent. I mean, if you are holding a meeting and there are expenses associated with that meeting, it's almost certainly it is legitimate to charge people those expenses that they're making use of, or just charge people for those facilities, those amenities that they are actually using. So if you're using an amenity that involves an internet connection, and that internet connection costs something, it's almost certainly legitimate to charge people for that.
Okay.
There's no way that the state is requiring people to provide a service to, members of their party.
I don't know if it's a service though. It's a necessary
Well,
part of being a member.
I think we need to amend this then, because yes, I understand that you have costs associated with an event, and you can charge for the event, but the the part about the means to speak or vote, it can't that can't go forward if we have ballot access. Like Andrew just said, you can't permit somebody per election law from actually participating in the business aspect of this. So we
Yeah,
could for events
that
if we have ballot access, but we can't prevent business from happening for them.
yeah, that part of it would have to be revised. It could be
Changes.
that you just aren't going to provide people the means to speak or vote remotely. But that's different from saying that you won't provide people the means to speak or vote if they're present.
Is there a reason National handles things the way they do? I think the business portion is free, but you have to pay for the other stuff.
Well, we do that too.
But they don't allow any remote participation anymore. They did for that one year of 2020 because of the pandemic, but there was a lot of blowback, and now I think they've basically ruled that no one can participate remote ever again.
I'm just curious if it's because that's their policy, just because they don't want to, just because that's their policy, or if their hands are tied by election law nationally.
There is no national election law.
Okay.
There's no such thing. They can hold their convention however they damn well please. There's no federal laws regarding conventions, I don't think. I mean,
No.
maybe, maybe something having to do with campaign finance, but there isn't any. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on the proposed amendment?
If we decided to become a dues paying organization, how would that affect this? Would we want to keep this, or would the membership dues supersede this?
We can't
Uh,
become we definitely can't become. Chris Olinsky's point is correct. If we get ballot access, we can't be a dues paying organization.
Obviously, that would become null and void, like Chris was getting at. But until that happens, and unless that happens, is there not an argument to be made in favor of becoming a dues-paying organization? And how would this proposal affect that?
Well, my point to
I think that question would come up. Because if we became a dues paying organization, previously when we were a dues paying organization, you paid your dues, you showed up to the meeting, you got to vote, there was no remote option. The difference is if we did become a dues paying organization, we'd probably allow remote participation in addition to in-person meeting. I mean, that could change. So the difference would be just having a remote option.
Well, a dues paying organization for the entire LPNY is a way of shooting ourselves in the foot, because it would discourage people from being registered members. That is totally an idiotic move, I'm sorry to say, in my view. We need to increase our membership rolls. That is our most important function right now, is to increase the number of people that we can contact regularly about, donations, whatever. And we can't do that unless we have a membership list.
What about being state committee requiring a membership due?
That's different. Okay, to require a membership fee to be on the state committee, that could be acceptable. The best way to implement that would be to charge a fee to run for state committee, because it looks bad to say once somebody gets elected, well, you've been elected, but we don't care about the people who voted for you. We're going to make you pay to actually get on the committee. I think that's a bad look.
It's
but if you
going back to the FLP model of it being a dues paying member, it's just mincing words of what you call it. But here again, if ballot access is attained, that has to immediately go away. And my point I was making to that earlier, was that we potentially are doing this for only one other scheduled in-person meeting for the remainder of the year. So is it worth it now and just wait to see what the general election is and then go forward with it? Maybe we can get
I will
I'm not
bet
gonna take this
you the
off the table.
$400 we would raise that we will not get ballot access.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying I'm not gonna prevent this from being proposed, right, and table it. But I will say that if we decide that this is okay and we go forward with it to present to the body, we should probably get some legal clarification on it too.
I mean, we'd also know because if in June, 3 months before the September convention, if we didn't get enough signatures and don't have a candidate on the ballot, we're not getting ballot access. And that's before our September convention. So we know we'd have an idea possibly in June. If we are on the ballot, we would know in November. Any other discussion on proposal B? Okay, sounds like we'll go to and vote. All in favor of proposal B, recommending it to state committee, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
You can't vote.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
Did we all pay our fee so we can vote?
How about every vote costs, I don't know, 100 sats, and we can convert to Bitcoin.
We should come up with LPNY's own cryptocurrency. Okay, so there we go. I want to go over and do proposal C. This is doing some cleanup of the organization meeting. Where we had numerous committees of this. But I just put it, the committee may appoint subcommittees because we haven't used these in a while. And it kind of makes it a little cumbersome for a simple convention committee, which I'm calling the Convention Oversight Committee. And then just a couple of like clarifications, the Rules Committee there's no subcommittee, just call that the committee. There's no Credentials Committee, just call that a Credentials Report. So that's just some simple changes here. Did anyone want to make a motion to get this on the table?
Yeah, sorry, I was yawning.
Okay.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, it's been made and seconded. Any
Just a point of
discussion?
order. If we're
Yeah.
operating under small committee rules, there is no second necessary.
I've just been doing that as practice.
I know. It came up in another meeting, that's why I brought it up.
Okay. Discussion on proposal C. Christopher Linsky, is that from last time or is that's
Negative.
Zoom keeping your hand raised? Okay, any discussion on proposal C? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of proposal C, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Abstentions? All right. That's passed. Okay. All right, so let's go to proposal D. Here's some clarifications here that I noticed that were problematic in when we were doing the delegates stuff. These here are redundant because we actually mention like this one right here, I just put the policy manual. So we don't need that. And then shall be elected in accordance with the rubric, shall be selected in accordance with the rubric. So there's that, merging that. Then down here I put saying instead of the final list, because there will be multiple lists of delegates and alternates as it changes. So I struck final. shall be ratified, instead of saying at a meeting of the state committee, since we have a delegate, rubric approved by the state committee, this would open the door for the executive committee to ratify, subsequent proposals, so we don't have to call the whole state committee to do that. And then saying, additional at-large delegate, alternate delegates may be added after the, instead of election of, it's appointment of, because we aren't electing, a delegation, we're appointing them based on a rubric. That was, I don't know how that got in there. So a lot of cleanup on there, and then just allowing the executive committee to ratify stuff. So regarding proposal D, does anyone want to make a motion? Oh, and then down here, timing, shall be selected 1 month before petitioning for the presidential primary begins, if such primary is held. Because sometimes there won't be a primary, so I'm saying if it should held. Instead of saying during non-presidential nominating conventions, I'm gonna say for all other national conventions. Because we may not have a primary in a presidential race time, which is the case in 2024. So that cleans that up there. Yeah, yes, Christopher Linsky?
Yeah, I got a question about this process. Let me get my thoughts together. I know I just got the email for you, or I went through a survey asking about when we're going to do this again, because the list didn't go get, I had to drop off the meeting myself, so I didn't see that there was not a finalized list of delegates. But wouldn't that technically mean that there's vacancies now that the XCOM can fill via line of succession according to this, which therefore means you wouldn't have to have a second meeting?
No, so it says the final list of delegates and alternates shall be ratified at a meeting of the state committee.
Well, the executive committee does
At
business.
a meeting of the state committee. In our rules, we define a meeting of the state committee.
Well, if you're
Um,
at a meeting of and now by the state committee, that defers to the XCOM that can conduct business for the state committee.
yes. Right
So
now it
that's
can't.
Maybe you want to be specific and say at a meeting of the full state committee.
No, well, that my intention was to allow it so the executive committee could do that.
Okay, so then you just want by the state
Yeah.
committee.
Because I don't
Okay.
want to call the full state committee to say so-and-so dropped off as a delegate and we're going to appoint so-and-so.
Right.
And
But
and we're
okay, so
following the rubric anyway.
It's all automatic. It's not
Yeah,
opinion
it's
based anymore.
yeah, it's no longer opinion based. So basically the executive committee has to just ratify the rubric and just formally make those appointments and demotions.
so I've answered my own question with this. It actually, I'm confirming it to be yes, but until this passes, we still have to call the meeting in
Yes.
essence pass this, and then we might as well finish that delegate list anyway. Or you don't necessarily have to. Well, you do, because it's just for the delegates. It's not for rules or anything. It's just a continuation, right?
It's
But
not it's not a continue. So I'm actually calling a meeting for this purpose in
right.
February, and then the other business we may have, we might have rules amendments.
But
Which I
what I'm is that we wouldn't have to, if let's say we didn't get like where we're at now, we didn't get through a list of delegates. You wouldn't have to reconvene the entire state committee. The XCOM could just do this via.
yes,
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Thank you.
that's the purpose of this. Yes. So did anyone want to make a motion to get this on the table?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. All in favor of proposal D, say aye.
I
All opposed, nay. Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Passed. Okay, let's go to proposal E. Okay, so this is on the exclusivity, which right now it's saying these rules are the exclusive rules of the state committee. Rather than the LPNY as a whole, which I was confused. I'm not sure what the purpose of that. So, because we also have county affiliates in here, we have numerous other things in here that go beyond the state committee. And then saying adopted by the specifically LPNY. So it's a couple of minor clarifications here. Would anyone want to make the motion for proposal E?
I move
Sure,
that
I'll
we
move it.
accept.
Motion, motion by Mark Brayman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michael Redmond. Discussion. Not seeing any hands. All in favor of proposal E, say aye.
Aye.
I,
All opposed, nay. Abstentions? All right, proposal E passes. So then we're gonna go on to passed. Proposal F. This is on our new policy manual. I found it unnecessary, or I think it's now thinking about it, because otherwise we'd have to add like something on delegate rubric. Unnecessary to add an index of this, because it'll just be in the policy manual, so I'm just proposing that we remove that part. So would anyone want to move to get that on the table?
sure, I'll move.
Motion by Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michael. Is there discussion on proposal F?
Does 2341, should that remain here? Because that's an actual rule and not, I mean, it's both policy, but it's also a rule, right?
It's not a rule. It's special rules that pertain only to the state committee. And they can be, and in the past, we've always passed the same set of rules. So it became part of the policy manual, or we passed it on March 5th, just so we don't have to keep approving the same document over and over. And so it then became part of the policy manual. So those are how our meetings operate, like how long debate can go or how long speeches can go, things that aren't really set in stone as a rule, just sort of procedural things. But those things in those special rules of order in the policy manual, it shows how it can be suspended by a certain vote, and we can certainly amend it accordingly.
That was going to be my question. It's not a set in stone.
Yeah.
Obviously, its own title of special order has to do with each individual event. Okay.
Yep. Any other discussion on proposal F? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of approving proposal F, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay. So, I'm gonna go back up. Proposal A, which had been brought up before. I had struck out the last sentence. And basically what this did was, this was just clarifying the terms. And that the new state committee has sole authority in that organization meeting. So this is just a sort of a housekeeping for terms. I don't necessarily think it's necessary, except for maybe the striking of the word primary. But it's still here. If anybody wanted to move it, if not, we could just do striking primary. Because I think that's probably the only necessary thing to do. So I'll just leave it to the body. Okay. All right, I'm not hearing anything.
So you're looking to move that? I was reading it, but you're looking to put it on the table? So moved.
Yeah, okay, so okay, so there's a motion regarding proposal A by Christopher Ilinsky. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Second by Adam. Okay, discussion on proposal A.
I'm just trying to remember. I know we talked about this before, but basically this just makes it clear that the new state committee is the state committee and the old one, if you were voted out,
Yes.
you lose your voting rights, right?
Correct. It get, they have full authority over that. And shall assume decision-making authority for all matters discussed during the organization meeting. Outgoing members may assist in the transition, but new state committee members have the sole power to ratify or modify decisions made during the meeting, subject to binding contractual obligations. Christopher Olinsky.
Yeah, I'm just help me understand though. 6, 7, and 6, 8. It says it will still serve, meaning we still have duty. We still have authority. Then, if we're still serving until the conclusion, which just seems
And
the exact what
that's what
6.
election law says.
But I'm
And
not saying I'm not seeing how we can still serve and basically have our full, rights, if you will.
but you don't according to this. Actually, currently it's kind of unclear in our current rules because it shall serve until the conclusion. So this makes it clarified. New elected members of the state committee shall assume decision making during the organization meeting. So that clarifies that it's the new state committee that takes the authority.
I don't understand that we shall. I know what you're saying. We're getting into the thing weeds of what we have to do per election law and what we don't. Earlier, we discussed being dues members. We don't have to do anything according to election law, but this says that we serve according to election law. I don't
Yes.
understand. What do we?
Election, I would actually argue that election law should be fixed and clarify.
Well, I'm asking under what capacity do we actually have to serve anything other than just being a mentor, sitting by the side of people who might not yet know what to do? I don't get it.
Exactly. That's why this proposal is here to clarify that may assist in the transition.
I don't know if there's different wording. To me that you're still serving your term means that you're still basically. I know it says otherwise in 6, 8, but I mean, you if that other you're not really serving as anything in any official capacity at that point at all. I don't think that the wording is correct on that.
So should maybe say except as provided in 6.8? Would that help clarify? Actually, that should be we'll discuss some amendments. I'm gonna actually make that subsection here.
These are great. Maybe you should have these.
Does the election law that we're worried about say they
Yes.
have to vote? No, they have.
No, or no, not vote. So
It
Yeah, you said
doesn't
it was
say they serve.
unclear. What's the verbiage?
The only thing that it says is that the authority for decisions transfers to the new state committee at the end of the meeting. I think it uses the word authority, if I remember correctly, Andrew.
yeah.
Oh,
We could, yeah.
I got a question.
So here it is. Every state committee shall meet no earlier than September 17th, no later than October 1st, following the June primary. Until such organization meeting, the existing state committee shall exercise all legal authority. Upon the conclusion of such organization meeting, the new state committee shall assume all legal authority vested in the previously organized state committee.
Okay, no, go back to our proposal, because that reads as something different than what I think we have on the board. You see, so the third, right. 6-7 is correct. 6-7-1, the newly elected members of the state committee shall assume decision-making at the organization. What you just read in election law means that that new body does not have any power until the conclusion at which they are elected. That would be they would be the next meeting in succession. They would have full authority, but the old body maintains full authority throughout that organizational meeting where the new members are elected, vacancies are filled and appointed, new officers of the executive committee and so on are picked. The old body maintains full power. I think what you just read according to election law, and then it would be the very next meeting would the authority transfers.
No, it says until such organization meeting, the existing state committee shall have all legal authority. So once that organization meeting
No,
starts,
read the next
the-
sentence.
Yeah,
Upon
the next
conclusion-
sentence.
upon the
upon con-
conclusion, the new state committee shall assume all legal authority vested in the previously organized state committee.
See,
Well-
I don't think we should
Yeah.
take a vote on this until we have a definitive explanation from someone who knows from a lawyer who knows what these terms mean. Because I don't think these terms mean legal authority. I don't think means voting authority or decision-making authority. I think legal authority means something other than decision-making authority. I think legal authority means liability, legal liability for those decisions.
Let me provide a hypothetical situation where out of our 62 counties, or I forget how many judicial districts, but anyway, because we just changed the rules about how many reps we have. Let's say in our next cycle, we only have a third of the amount of people that we do now that actually pass petitions to get elected. But that you're saying they're going to be the quorum to fill the rest of the vacancies and have all the decision making power in that, in that organizational meeting themselves when there's an entire potentially sitting there.
So since there's some legal questions, does somebody want to make a motion to postpone proposal A?
I move to
Until-
postpone proposal A until after we get a consultant, a legal consultant, to explain to us the meaning of the terms in the state law.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second thought.
Okay, discussion on postponement. Okay, all in favor of postponement, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay,
I
so,
also abstain.
okay, so that has been postponed. I also sort of grabbed onto our current 6.7. I think we need to strike the term primary. Because there is no primary for us. It's just an election. So I just made a quick proposal G to cover that. Does someone want to get that on the table?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there a discussion on proposal G? Okay, hearing none. We'll go to a vote on proposal G. All in favor of proposal G, say aye.
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 All opposed,
Aye.
nay. Abstentions? Okay. Proposal G passes. Okay. So we have, there's a couple more. It is what we called from last time. I'm using the same numbering, the Rules Committee minor amendments. So I have two of them here. One of them is in Article 4. So it says to the election of public office LPNY members, to the election of public office of LPNY members. Just adding that of in there as a minor amendment to amend the rules, per our authority under that rule. Is there any objection to adding that of? Hearing
But-
none.
Numerical stuff without having to go through committee.
Yes. Okay, no objection. So this has passed. Okay. RCMA 13. This one, it says, except that only LPNY members elected to the executive committee shall be the voting members at the meeting of that body, and change it to meetings of that body. Is there any objection to adding the S to the end of that word as in adopting that amendment? Okay. Hearing none. That one has passed. And
We should be careful about that because we've LPNY members elected to the state committee shall be the voting members. That doesn't allow for somebody like Rich Pertel, who was not elected to the state committee in accordance with Article 6. But he's on the executive committee, and we have said that by ex officio, he's a voting member of the state committee as well. So there's a discrepancy here between this 8.4.1 and somewhere else where it says that executive committee members are also ex officio on the state committee.
all officers shall be considered ex officio members of the state committee, shall have the same rights and privileges.
Yeah, so that's inconsistent with what we were just going through.
Where were we at? Oh, okay. LPNY members elected to the state committee in accordance with Article 6 shall be the voting members, except that only LPNY members elected to the executive shall be, oh, because we don't specify ex officio.
Elected to the state committee or
Actually, so
as well as
let's do
no, you don't want to say that.
members of the executive committee.
You don't want to put it in the second sentence is about the executive committee. You want to make a modification in the first sentence, which is about the voting members of the state committee.
Oh, okay. Members. Well,
So after Article 6, or no, the LPNY members elected to the state committee, comma, along with ex officio with additional members, let's see.
but
along with the
that was an office elected, so it is in Article 6, and they were elected.
It's a little bit confusing. You might want to just say including officers. You know what all you need to do is say the LPNY members elected to the state committee and state committee officers elected in accordance with Article 6.
Well, then
As
if it's
well
it could be an at-large ex officio.
Well, so what is the wording in Article 6?
Um,
All officers.
on.
Does that include the officers? Actually, you know what? We don't actually make provision for ex officio members of the executive committee. I'm sorry, we don't make provision for at-large members of the executive committee to be considered members of the state committee. We don't actually.
Oh, boy.
Do we? What were you
Uh,
there? Article 6 about the ex officio, about the at-large members.
be considered. If not, oh, members at large, if not a member of the state committee, shall be considered ex officio members of the state committee and shall have the same rights and privileges as any member of the state committee.
Okay, but this is in Article 7. So
On the executive committee, yeah.
so the other thing that you were looking at said that only people who are elected according to Article 6 have votes on the state committee.
Hold on, voting. Yeah, voting. Yeah, it's general voting. The LPNY members. But if they're elected to the state committee,
Well, essentially what this works as is it means that those officers and at-large executive committee members are members of the state committee, but non-voting members. There are plenty of examples in organizations of having non-voting ex officio members.
what if we say members of the state committee in accordance with Article 6 shall be the voting members?
That won't include all the officers.
Well, Article 6 and Article 7.
Uh,
Or, it's, hold on. This is Article. What was it? It was 7 point.
But I actually think your solution you offered just now is pretty good. You just say all members of the all members of the state committee as provided in Articles 6 and 7 shall be voting members. What that mean? You could reiterate.
The executive committee shall consist of the officers as defined, the 5 members at large. There shall be no more than 1 member. Members at large, if not, the member of the state committee shall be considered ex officio member of the state committee and shall have the same rights and privileges. It's like that should be in Article 6.
Yeah.
Well, we can do a fix, but I think we need to move some things. Say, but for now,
yeah, this is maybe more than a small fix, but maybe not.
Does this then become a minor amendment though?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is it's maybe no longer a minor amendment. It's a clarification.
I don't think it is, because I think we're clarifying something that we have practice.
But it's not necessarily provided in our rules.
Maybe what we should do for the next meeting is try to figure out how to clean up the language between those sections so we can clarify this.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're gonna come to a conclusion today.
Yep.
Okay, so RCMA-14. This one, this is already implied because this is the only article having to do with hearings. And actually, no. When we renumbered things, it says following a hearing as approved in 12.2.3, which is here, but the hearing is here. But But I mean, it's already implied, if we could say like, we could reference every single article, like this happened in accordance with this article, but it's already implied because this is all under the procedure, so I don't
Yep.
think this extra wording is necessary.
You're right.
Is there any objection to approving this as an amendment? All right, hearing no objection, it's passed. Okay. I don't think there's another. Okay, so a couple things. Because that's it. That's the end of it. But we do have the thing that we want to clarify, look between the meetings and figure out the at-large clarification. And then there is the part where we need to seek legal clarification on proposal A. So there's those two. The third thing is, I think, at the next meeting to add to this committee, or would there be any objection, I guess, to ask, would there be any objection to also amending this committee to also include policies to go over the policy manual? And language for that, because I don't necessarily think we should need a whole separate committee for that.
I think it's a good idea to have it all in the rules committee. I mean, I think other committees can suggest policies, but I think it's a good idea not to have, I think it's a good idea to have the rules committee look at all the policies that go in there to make sure that they are consistent with our rules.
Yeah.
That they're not rules.
As a matter of formality, though, did I move to make an actual policy committee?
You said to recommend it to a sort of a future committee.
Policy committee, it doesn't exist yet. Yes.
But what I'd say is I'd ask this committee, is there any objection to recommending that the state committee rename and repurpose this as the Rules and Policy Committee?
Well, then you have to change. There is a,
We have to change the rules
we have to change the
for
rules.
standing
'cause
committees.
The
Yeah.
rules, we have to rename it in the rules for standing committees.
Okay.
That was the point of my inquiry, and it's a terrible formality.
The correct one.
Actually, so the word Rules Committee is mentioned a few times.
Well, if
maybe
if we propose to change it, get it approved, can we then go back and use our power to do grammatical edits to change the name
Or-
of rules?
Or we
Or
could just
rules
say
and
that the
policy?
Rules Committee is short for the Rules and Policy Committee. We just need to establish that the Rules Committee is also the Rules and Policy Committee in the first location where the Rules Committee is introduced in the rules.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, that's where the standing rules are, the standing committees are established.
Correct.
I mean, I don't mind calling it would we want to still just call it the Rules Committee or Rules and
Yeah, we just
Policy
have to
Committee?
put in something like Dan just said. Is the rules committee defined anywhere?
Yeah, like
No,
Raymond just said.
it's not even defined in the policy manual.
It's established.
It's
Okay,
established,
so
but
we can add it to the policy manual that the rules committee also oversees policies. If that's where we're defining the rules committee, right?
um
Or would we have to form a temporary policy
committee and then merge them?
How silly do we need to get?
They need to decide
Actually,
whether the
you know
rules
what? Maybe what we need to do is we need to recommend as this committee a policy manual amendment to the state committee. Now, we're not doing it as mending the policies per our thing, but maybe defining the scope of this committee.
I think that's a good idea. I think the policy manual should describe the scopes of all the committees.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So the
Yes.
rules committee. Yeah, I'm just gonna go to the end of our working document and we'll work on some wording here. So rules, whoops. And then this will be a policy. This will be in sort of new business, and then later it'll be in future rules committee reports. Rules committee definition. The rules committee. Actually, how do I define it in here? Like if I go to like, yeah, see, this is all we have. Maybe just taking like sort of a definition of another committee going. The rules committee shall be led by
Establishes rules and policies for the LPNY.
You got a capital E, okay.
Yeah. The committee is responsible for overseeing, is responsible for
Updating and adding to the party's rules or the,
I think we'd have to say proposing. Because the whole
For-
state committee has to vote on them.
reviewing and
Nominated.
for reviewing. And what do we do? What do we do?
Propose,
proposing rules to the state committee,
Amendments to
amendments
the
to the rules.
to
To the
the
policy, rules and
Okay.
policy, rules and policies,
Rules and policy manual. Yeah,
just rules and policies.
I would say rules and policies. The policy manual is the written
yeah.
codification
of
of
the
that.
LPNY.
The rules
sorry, guys.
committee.
I was distracted for a second. I want to pose a question if you didn't already discuss it.
Yeah.
Should we just go ahead and do this and have it done and then just propose that we what you're creating right now, and then therefore there probably shouldn't be any argument against it and it's already
That
done.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, technically the executive committee could also do this, but in order for the policy manual to be amended, it has to be amended by either the executive committee or the state committee.
Right, this can just go to XCOM
Yeah.
because it's in the policy manual.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Because the only one that was referred back is the refund thing, which I'm not too concerned is urgent. So I mean, we could just have this. So, is this a good definition? For first, the rules committee shall be led by the rules committee chair. The committee is responsible for reviewing and proposing amendments to the rules and policies of the LPNY.
Should you say proposing to who, or is that implied?
I think it's
Of the-
implied.
Okay.
Because all it is a recommendation. You know, the state committee could reject everything, and it's whatever. So it's specifically, you know, the rules and policies. So it's implied there pretty much.
But to the state committee is implied.
Yeah,
Well, we're a
but policy
subcommittee
manual
of
could
the
be done by
state
the
committee.
executive committee.
Well, yeah, I didn't say full state committee.
Right.
But
yeah, I think it's
as long as
implied.
you think it's implied, I'm fine with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I think it's implied. Yeah. Okay, so is there any objection to recommend this to, and I'll say state committee, which could mean state committee or executive committee, as an amendment to the policy manual? Okay, hearing none. That has been recommended. And you will, the following amendment to the policy manual. Okay. So what we have is, we have one, we need to get legal consultation on proposal A. Number two, we need to figure out and address the issue of 8.4.1 on at-large ex officio. And that's pretty much it for right now. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to bring up for the Rules Committee?
I just want to say I spent the last like 20 minutes Googling the definition of legal authority in election law. And it seems like New York State is the only place that has ever used that phrase together ever. So it's going to be interesting, I guess. Like the term legal authority,
Oh, that's interesting.
like no other state. I mean, I couldn't find anything, but
Did you ask ChatGPT?
I'm not a lawyer. No, but I will now.
Um, okay, so
It'll just hallucinate something.
let's schedule our next meeting. So I'm not sure when our state committee meeting is gonna happen. I think we could, we don't have to have it next week, because already have some. We already have I already have 3 meetings next week. So we got the week of February 12th. Today's a Tuesday. Would Tuesday, February 13th work? That's 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I have that day off, so that's fine.
No, this petitioning stuff has to be turned in and stuff that day. It's gonna be a crazy day for me. I know.
So what about Wednesday? That's Valentine's Day, unless we want to have a meeting.
I close on
Wednesdays
Valentine's
never
Day.
work for me.
Thursday, the 15th.
Let me-
Probably, but I don't
Oh,
know.
I gotta
There's a
check something. Wait,
Mises
wait, wait,
meeting.
wait.
Mises
let me-
meeting that night.
Oh, that's the Mises
Yeah,
meeting. What about,
we have a meeting that night with and
Okay.
Hornberger's a guest.
That might be our county meeting, actually, the 15th.
what about Wednesday, the 21st?
No.
You said
I have rehearsal.
Wednesday, the 21st?
Our county
Yes,
meeting, Wednesday, the
We're coming
21st.
up on the holy season.
Okay,
What about like, oh, you can't do Mondays, right?
Correct.
well, Karen Thompson says Mondays are bad for her.
Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday.
Thursday
Mostly
the
Tuesdays,
20
Thursdays.
Thursday, the 22nd.
Do you have
So
a-
far, it's good.
We're getting past when I remember what I'm working, and I don't have it on my
Looks
phone.
open.
So you guys can do whatever, and I'll figure it out.
So are we good for Thursday, the 22nd?
What time?
Yeah, that looks good.
7 p.m. Okay, we will do that.
Did you say 7?
7 p.m.
Alrighty.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
No, let's go forever.
Yes.
Make Adam happy.
I
Is there a
refuse
s-
to second motion to adjourn.
Is there a
There-
second?
The
Andrew, what's that?
22nd, right, okay.
I'm not hearing a second. Do I have to
I'll
We
declare
have
this?
you trapped. You can never
I'll
go to
s-
another meeting, Andrew.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
second. I'll
You-
second.
you
Mark
do know
Freeman
that-
has seconded. Okay. Is there any objection to adjournment? Adam? No objection to adjournment. We are adjourned at 8:20 p.m.
Just an FYI, your 22nd is Washington's birthday.
Oh, we can have
Under
birthday
the
cake.
new, under the new calendar, right? Remember the calendar read February 11th when he was actually born.
So
Well, I
you're
mean,
bringing,
always
so
President's Day is an abomination. There
so
used to be
Mike,
presidents.
you're bringing cake that day, right?
Sure. Marie Antoinette said it best, let them eat cake.